Hey, Chris.
Hey, Terry, starting to type a chat there. I don't know if you recognize my name, but I met you when you were down in Austin for the Texas Dreamin'.
Oh, nice.
And I kind of said, I'm one of your biggest fans.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm
That's-
sure you got that a number of times. So I'm not.
Oh, all good. All good.
Let me turn on my video. Sorry. There you go. I don't know if that,
There
bald
you
guy.
go. Yeah, that's better.
Um,
Excellent.
can I kind of tell you an idea of what I'm wanting to do, or is it too early?
We can get started. That'll be fine, I think. It's just the
Okay. I
two of
mean,
us at the moment. I think Andy will be joining here in a minute. I just sent him over the link to connect, so he'll be on soon. But
gotcha. I know you probably want to record. I'm thinking, do you want me to kind of go through this before it starts recording so that the recording will sound better?
we
Because,
are actually live streaming right now, so
oh, well,
it
fantastic.
is.
Well, hello,
It
everyone else.
is.
Um, cool. Well, I work for a nonprofit here in Austin, and we work with schools, and our org is customized NPSP 3.0.
Okay.
What we do is we also use Form Titan. Have you ever come across Form
I've
Titan? Are you
not
familiar?
used that one, no.
You could say it's kind of it's a portal, allows us to create portals in various ways, and it's not as expensive as Salesforce experience. There are
Okay.
drawbacks. I mean, it's not Salesforce. So one of the issues I run into is we have a volunteer sign up portal. So a school, that's an account record, will have volunteer opportunities, custom object, detail of the school account record.
Hmm.
We call those placement opportunities. If you happen to hear me say volunteer opportunities, same thing. Um,
Okay. And that's a
and
custom
then
object.
custom object, and then as a detail object of volunteer opportunities, there's the assignment object. And the idea with
Okay.
that is a with the portal, or you could the volunteer logs in, picks their school, the account record, and based on the school or schools they pick, it then pulls all the placement opportunities that are available. And placement opportunities, same thing as volunteer opportunities.
Okay.
And then once they pick however many volunteer opportunities that they want to, when they click next in the portal, it creates an assignment underneath those placement opportunities. And it's got, contact information and so on. Where I'm running into an issue is, and maybe this can be done with a flow. I know my biggest issue is they can go through the process and everything's great. And then 10 minutes later, like, so, I didn't get a confirmation email or this or that. They can go back in and pick the same volunteer opportunities again. So now back in Salesforce, someone could sign up as a school volunteer multiple times. And after we get their background check, and I'm wanting to send out an email to them, which could be automated with Flow, but what I have to do every time is remove the duplicates.
Yeah.
So if someone, and most people don't do that, but some do, and it's sort of a bottleneck where I have to do this tedious. You want me to show my screen? But are you familiar with the countif function with Excel?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I do is I export the assignments out. I concatenate the contact ID and the placement ID. So it creates essentially a unique, because I don't want to just say, oh, I want to filter on just the contact ID, because they may have signed up for multiple single opportunities, placement,
Okay.
assignments. So then I concatenate the, excuse me, the contact ID with the placement ID, because they should only have one school volunteer opportunity assignment. They should have only one field trip supervisor assignment. And so then I delete all those duplicates, and then I can process them, which it'd be great if I wasn't sure if I was going to get into flow situation.
Go ahead.
I wasn't sure if I was going to get into can this removing of the duplicate assignments be done as part of one flow or something else?
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of, is there a way to prevent it from happening altogether? So,
and there
when-
isn't.
So
well, I don't know. Go on. I'm sorry. I'm trying to tell you there isn't.
When yeah,
Excuse me.
so they sign in to this portal,
Mhm.
and they're presented with a list of volunteer opportunities. Is there a way on those volunteer opportunities to identify that they've already had somebody, that the volunteer's already been chosen or selected?
I would have to talk to the Form Titan people. But I would, the issue, can we assume it's possible that it's not possible?
Because
the
yes,
trade-off
we can assume that.
the trade-off with Form Titan is essentially, imagine as you're going through this portal of Form Titan, and it's doing gets and pushes. Getting the data and then displaying the data. And then when you select something, click to the next screen, then it pushes what you've chosen. So it's kind of putting stuff in a box and then pushing it, putting stuff in a box. And you can get some conditional logic in there, but I don't know if that runs into where it's doing too much work. I don't know.
Okay. So, for Form Titan, you're not sure if it can support it, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, they are, okay. I guess.
And is their portal environment able to support a Salesforce flow or no?
Well, it support flows, you could say, as part of, like, for example, at the end of the volunteer sign up, when I have it push essentially a value back to the contact record. And based on that value, a Salesforce flow back in Salesforce says, hey, you completed the volunteer sign up.
Okay. And it goes and creates the duplicate record for you.
Well, that's actually separate. That's sort of a generic, hey, you signed up, but I allow it to create in the assignment when they pick the volunteer opportunity and they're moving to the next step and they have to sign a document online. I'm allowing it to create duplicate opportunities. These used to be done with Visualforce pages, and duplicates were allowed there. For various reasons, they have to log in with their email address, and their email address Form Titan is tied to their unique ID. But you did open up a can of worms in which I should have realized I should have pulled them into the conversation earlier about, can we stop these duplicates from happening?
Yeah. I mean, if there's a way that we can prevent it from occurring, then it solves your problem, as opposed to trying to do it after it's occurred and fixing the cleanup. It's always better to prevent the problem than it is to have to clean it up afterwards. So gotcha. if we're gonna automate something, I personally would rather see us automated on the front end than to have to clean it up after the fact. Because there's things you could do to stop it. I mean, you could always put some kind of a duplicate rule of sorts on that object, on that in essence prevents the duplicate from being added. But my guess is if that fails because of a duplicate record, it's probably going to cause you some other problem as well. So yeah, I would, and you can certainly run through a cleanup. You could use Flow to help you with the cleanup process for sure, but I would try to find a way to avoid the problem altogether.
Is there, I will definitely consult with them on that. I'm still real curious about seeing a way about using a Flow for the cleanup process, or does it get really hairy? I mean, is it
I guess what comes to my mind is that you're able to identify these, right, just by the fact that it's the same volunteer opportunity and it's the same person for the same time period or something if needed.
Yes.
So what you could, my initial thought was to set up a scheduled job that goes out and checks for those every evening. You could look at anything that came in new that day and trying to think how we would do it without and avoid any kind of well, yeah, you could do it.
Aren't these contacts?
They are, what he's got is accounts with a custom volunteer object, the volunteer opportunity object, and then it's got scheduled people or scheduling time to serve in that role.
Yeah, where do we have the duplicates? What are duplicates?
The duplicates at that scheduled level.
If,
So
if I could rephrase that, you've got the account, the school has a custom child object placement opportunities, which is volunteer opportunities. And then, Anytown Middle School has school volunteer as a volunteer opportunity. And then volunteers sign up for school volunteer underneath that school. And that's another child record of the placement opportunities. We call those assignments. In the object name in Salesforce is assignments. And so person would sign up for school volunteer, and that would be an assignment for that. That's what we're talking about there. And they get duplicate through the API, how the records get into Salesforce. Duplicate records are created. And I saw some kind of answer you gave, Andy, where you were talking about, the ability to use a flow to remove duplicates. And I can identify duplicates very easily with these assignments. And then allow, for the next step of the flow or a second flow to start with criteria, not duplicate, or there's only one version of it, one unique record of this type. Because no one should be able to have duplicate records in
duplicate assignments.
Duplicate assignments. Thank you. Thank you very much. Duplicate assignments.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how it works on custom objects like that, but I think if you set up duplicate rules and matching rules, then you can put these show up like in a report.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
That's a good thought.
So that you can actually work that. If you know multiple records are duplicates according to your criteria, then you can define, you can create a flow that can process those and, like delete the rest and then keep one, or like possibly even update that one. That you can do that. But usually what happens is it's hard to identify that without human intervention. I mean, is it very easy to identify the duplicates here?
Yes, and if you like, I can show you an Excel file. But it's in essence what I'm doing is to start the whole processing, because they each get different emails depending on what volunteer assignment they picked. But so the first step is always, and it becomes, this is the bottleneck, because if I want to take a week off, I'd love to have this more automated. But essentially I export all the assignments out as a CSV file. I open it up in Excel. I concatenate the contact ID and the volunteer placement op ID, because the contact should only have one, placement op, volunteer opportunity. So I can concatenate those together. And then I use a countif function for the next column, and everything that's 2, 3, 4 on up, I then delete, and everything that's 1, looking at that concatenated column, I only want one of each value. And I'm trying to think of a way that I can first start with getting rid of the dupes, because if I can do that, whether a separate flow or not, or maybe not even thinking of flows, if there's a way to do that, then I can automate the rest of it. Because
how many duplicates do you have per usually? How many per record?
I do this once a day, and I might have 25 duplicates. So if I don't remove the duplicates, someone conceivably, if they've signed up 5 times, will get 5 of the same email. when they only should get one, even though they signed up multiple times. It's
So
a
Chris,
user.
I put a link in the chat that's to the duplicate record item object. I think Andy kind of clued me in on that thought. I want to build on the thought that he had. If you do put a duplicate matching rule in place, this would identify the fact that you have the duplicate, and it would tell you which records they are. That if you can get that into the flow, that would be a really simple way of going, getting rid of those records. So I think it's that particular object. If it's not, it's one of the other duplicate ones there that but I think it's that one.
Yeah, this is something you can actually also process you can try processing it with like a schedule triggered flow, but the problem with schedule triggered flows and things like this, and I encountered that myself, is schedule triggered flows don't really have a batch size determination possibility. So when you schedule a schedule triggered flow and say like, okay, I want to look at all these records, and then when I look at one record, I want to get all the similar records and then process them. You actually do this like 200 at a time. And then you could be actually getting the duplicate records at the same time and trying to delete each other or something. So, and then, I hit this wall all the time with schedule triggered flows. With something like this, it's not going to be very possible. So, but I mean, you can create, let's say, an auto launch flow pointed to a record, and then that record can get all the similar ones and delete them, and then put possibly at the end of the name, prepend something like saying, okay, this is the master. Do that. Yep. But once you start batching that, it's going to cause trouble, I think. It's going to probably fault out.
Oh, okay. And that's why, so is it possible then to break it out into a smaller flow? Like I saw something you wrote where you create a flow that deletes the duplicates, however that's done, maybe through the duplicate record item, deletes the duplicates in a certain batch, because that's kind of what we're looking at. Let's say I schedule this dedupe part at the beginning, which it would have to do. It has to take, it won't have more than 200 records. So it's not a huge amount of records if I'm, let's say, having it run every 3 hours. But the key is that runs, and then it says, oh, here's the dupes, gets rid of the dupes, and then works with those unique records. But that 5 minutes later, I could have it run again if I wanted to.
You could try this. If you do this like a record triggered flow. So when somebody enters the form, and then that's supposed to create that record. And then at that point, there are duplicates potentially, right?
Correct.
And then you could put this on an async path. I would recommend, highly recommend you put this on an async path. On the async path, get the similar records, right?
Yeah.
And then you found, let's say, 10 of them, right? And then you'll get them sorted by created date or something like that.
On the assignment record, I've already created that same concatenated field that I do in Excel. I created so that every assignment does automatically create that concatenated contact ID and placement op ID.
I like where Andy, where you're headed with that, because you could just in essence do it real time, almost real time, shortly.
Yeah. So
it's like within seconds.
Get all the similar records.
Yeah.
Rename the latest record prepend master at the end of it. I don't know exactly what you're doing with those codes. You can continue doing those, but I'm not sure whether I need to process that for this purpose, because you got all these other records with the exception of this last record. You delete everybody else in your get, everything else in your get.
Yeah. Which should just be one more record. If you're done it, if you're looking for duplicates for the one that was just entered, you'd only have one other duplicate there.
Yeah, if it's processing correctly, then there could be there is going to be only one record. Now the async flows, they run a separate transaction, so they don't really put a lot of load on your system. But I did hear from a developer friend, sometimes they do run delayed, like it could take a couple of minutes sometimes, depending on the load on your system, in your data center, whatever. So, because you're essentially telling Salesforce, do this when you're available.
Right. So I'm async is fine. You know, I don't think we have high volumes. And if occasionally, you know, someone gets a duplicate email, if a duplicate gets through and they get 2 emails, I'm okay with that too. I'm just wanting to reduce the hands-on time. And so I don't quite understand your thought and with Andy's concurrent, no, you're Andy, with Terry's concurrence about he liked where you were going. I don't know where you're going. And you could repeat that.
You want me to show you a little bit?
Yeah. In fact, yeah, I could even, I have a dev org if you want to look at it, but or if you wanted to show me your org, that's fine. It
No,
doesn't matter.
I'm just gonna draw something here, if that's okay. I'm into drawing lately on the screen.
Oh, fantastic.
Wait, why am I into?
And I guess where I'm mixed up, Terry, is identifying, you know, like I normally identify the, you know, duplicates by that count if function in Excel. However, I can do it with Salesforce is what I'm hoping to do, but I don't know if I'm trying.
I don't think you're going to need that function
Okay, great.
in on the Salesforce side. You're simply going to query for that duplicate, those duplicate records, the matching identifiers, and I would say you're perhaps going to go into some kind of a loop, keeping the first one once you have that one. But in essence, you're bypassing the first one, and in your next record in the loop, you'd probably add that to a collection, and then at the end of the loop, you would delete out the records in that collection.
All
Oh,
right.
great. Yeah,
I think I'm ready. Sorry about that. That took a minute.
That's what I think that Andy's going to kind of show you, but I may not be quite on the same page with him yet, but we'll see.
Okay, so what's the object name here?
Assignment. It's really just one object we're working here with.
All right, so we're triggering on assignment. Okay, so, and then we could be doing some things immediately or not. We have this like async path. So we're gonna go down the async path, right? And then on the async path, what we need to be doing is, I'm not sure, Terry, we need actually a collection or something, because we could probably do this. I think delete takes a collection though, right? Is that how it works? Can delete take a criteria? Like update?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I'll tell you in just a moment. I can't off the top of my head.
Because
let me check.
Yeah, because if delete can take criteria like update, you can just specify here in this criteria. You can say, okay,
the content
contact ID is this, and then I don't know what else could be indicators that these could be duplicates.
Even better, back in the assignment object, I created a field called, and I just call it concant, and it's a concatenated contact ID and assignment ID.
Okay, concatenated ID, index, whatever. So you look at that, and then now, and Terry is checking that. I don't know if this works like update. You can just immediately delete this. If not, we're gonna have to query and delete it.
You can, yeah, it does have filter criteria on the delete.
Yeah. So remember though, here this is important. I don't think you're gonna experience any problems with this, but this actually consumes one SQL, one DML regardless. So
Sure.
because
It's not gonna be a
you are
problem.
you are querying and then you are deleting, right? And then what I would do as well here is I would update the current record with some information. I could be even putting in the description how many records I deleted. These are the record IDs and whatever, and then renaming possibly the current record appending something to the end or something like master record or something.
Okay, and that's where I get confused about identifying, let's say, the first record that's found of the concatenated contact ID and the assignment ID. The first one I want to keep. Everything else that is the same concatenated contact ID and assignment ID, from that field.
You need
I've
to
actually
keep
got
one of
that
them.
field.
Yeah,
Just
well,
keep the
you're
first one.
exactly right. This is going to delete everything.
Yeah,
Because-
that's why I was suggesting going through a loop and identifying, basically skipping
Yeah.
your first one, throwing the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever number it is into a collection, and then running your delete after the loop.
We can actually do this with the we need to do a collection then, but we
Yeah.
can actually do this with a collection filter.
You think you can get to the first one
Well, we're doing this
with the
async.
collection?
That first record has been already created.
Right, both records have been created at this point.
Yeah, both are. have been created.
How are you identifying in the filter the first one?
The first one, so let's move this down a little bit. So what we're gonna do then is we're gonna do a get, right? This is what we said. Get records, and this get record is gonna have this, and then we need a collection filter, and the collection filter is going to have criteria. Something like, and you need to experiment with this, I think. Created date needs to be current date time minus 1 minute or something.
Yeah, that would be a way to do it too.
Something like that. That could be one way, or there could be some other ways. I don't really exactly know how it's going to play out, this one, but you could do it that way. Like, the last one you want to exclude. Or is there any other way other than looping?
Well, here's a couple of thoughts, and there's that unofficial SF, and I don't know if this is a fit, but they have that dedupe apex action. But what it seems to do is that it just removes the duplicates, and it gives you the uniques, and I'm still stuck with the dupes back in the org. So I'm not sure, and again, I'm not totally sure of that, but I don't know if that dedupe, if there's a way to identify. One thought I had is this. Let me run this by you. Is grab these assignments and then loop through them, and with an assignment say possible dupe, and so every record at that point is listed as a possible dupe. And then what was it? I forgot my train of thought when I was thinking about this before. It just seemed unwieldy where the first pass it makes everything is possible dupe, and then the second pass I then tell that's what it was, the dedupe apex action, grab the unique record on the concat field, and then everything else you can delete. It just seemed like it was too unwieldy.
Yeah,
And
to me, the simplest way to do it is to get your records and spin through them, keep the first one, delete the rest of them after the loop.
And,
I didn't know
what
if we could do
Pretty straightforward.
and after you did the like legacy cleanup, as Terry suggested, probably you're going to end up with two then, the older
Yeah.
one and then the current one. If that's the case, you can even do this with a collection sort, because if you do a collection
true.
sort by created date, then you can also specify how many you are going to choose. I'll say, okay, I'm going to sort this by created date. With the oldest created date first, and then I only want one record in that collection, and go delete that one.
That sounds like a pretty good idea. The created date, and keep the newest one, or keep the first one it finds, you're saying, or
No, actually, you're gonna do a sort and then find the oldest one. The newest one is yours, like the master. We're assuming the oldest
Right.
one. You're just gonna say, I want the one oldest one, and then actually you can even do a get and a check to see how many you get, and then if the number is 2, that's another idea, right? So if you do your SQL and then do an assignment on your collection, you find out how many you have in that collection. You know now.
okay,
You know that method?
no,
Okay, so you can actually do an assignment. So here is your, you need to create a variable, and then you'll call this variable count variable or something like that. And then you
Okay.
go into your assignment step. This is your assignment element. And then on the left side, you'll have the count variable. This is an integer. It's number, it doesn't have any decimals. And then your operator there's an operator that's called equals to the count of. And then you point on the right side, you point this to the result of this. So you say, you know how you get like an automatically created collection record variable? You say, I want the count of my get records. And you're going to get, if you have 5, you're going to get 5 here. And then when you do a collection sort, you can say, I want the 4 records in that collection, sorted by created date, starting with the oldest, and you delete all this. You'll have 1 left.
Okay, and then how do I if you can go through the logic of that last part where, okay, I got the count variable, I've got the get records, but then how do I say, so it gives me a count of 5, and then sort on created date and say keep the newest one and get rid of all the older ones. Is you can do that with the created date, like you're showing here, less or equal to, or
Okay, let me just show you that one. Let me delete this.
okay.
So this is going to be now a collection sort, not a
Okay.
collection filter. And then you are going to say sort by created date. And this is going to be ascending order.
Okay.
Yes. Now, the one thing I don't remember is you actually can tell how many results you want, but can you point that to a variable? I don't know. I have to look up.
I don't know that we can there.
Uh,
I think the sort is just going to sort it. And that's
no, the sort
No.
definitely has accounted it. I was just playing with it, maximum results, but I don't remember whether I can point it to a count variable. Let me just log in.
And the created date field has date as well as time in it.
Well, all system fields by Salesforce, they'll be named date, they'll be all time and date. If you
Okay.
refer to those variables inside your flow, you'll see a little icon on the left side that will have both calendar and clock on it. That's
Oh,
your
good.
indicator. So when you are comparing those and carrying the values to variables, you got to set up your variables at date and time. It's a little bit confusing, but that's how it works.
Okay.
All right. Do you see this now?
Yes. Oh, okay.
No, it's only no, it doesn't work though. I can type the number in, but it's not really a variable picker. Yeah, it's not gonna work that way. That's not one of the ways we can
Okay.
do this. So scratch that.
Okay.
So
I still go back to the idea of just querying querying the records with the get and looping through it, keeping the first in it. To me, that just seems like the simplest, most intuitive way of
you mean
going
loop?
about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
you can
you
loop.
show me the loop and the idea? Because I guess in my mind, I'm not familiar with how to keep the first record in a loop for whatever reason. Not that I'm a master flow guy at this point.
Yeah,
but-
I would just I would probably just create a variable that anytime that basically resets itself anytime you're well, if you're doing this as one duplicate record at a time, which you would if you're kicking it off from a record trigger flow.
Well, you can do it like this.
would-
You-
Yeah, just right.
You
That
can do it in your
identifies
get.
your first one. Sure.
Yeah, and
I
then
think-
skip the first one. Do a counter, right?
Yeah.
Oh, do a counter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm not as familiar using a counter in flows. I definitely am not.
Yeah, it's just manual. In programming, you can actually have counters already at your disposal, but here you kind of create
Yeah,
count
you're gonna-
variables, and then
yeah.
you do an assignment of add one.
Right.
So you do a count variable integer, and then you have an assignment step here.
Yeah.
Yeah, inside your loop is where you're going to
Inside
increment
your
that count by
loop
one.
assignment.
And
Uh,
in here, the assignment is the assignment variable you're talking about here, right? Or we're talking about my assignment, my record assignment.
It's assignment element.
Element,
Inside
right.
your
Okay,
loop.
That's what I meant. Element.
Assignment element, and again, with your assignment, you have the operator called add. You do count variable add one. You just type in one,
Mhm.
and as soon as you go through this, that becomes number one, and then you follow that with a decision. So your loop will be here,
Right.
right? And then you'll go and then you'll do assignment. This is your assignment.
Okay. And then
And then a
collection.
decision.
Oh, decision. Okay.
Decision will check whether this is one or not. So if this is one, your counter is one, you go back and you don't do anything, right? If it's not one, you add to collection.
Right. Okay. There we go. This is it. The breakthrough is the sorted by created date, and then now this is really coming to fruition.
And then you do a delete on the collection,
Yeah.
like
This.
Terry was proposing initially.
That is great. That is great.
I'm still learning how to write on this thing. I bought one of those things, Wacom things, so it still looks like I'm 2 years old, but anyway.
Andy, I have to tell you, your handwriting's so much better than mine. I'm left-handed, and I was raised with desks that didn't have support for my hand, and so
Let me steal the screen from you, Andy, for a minute, because I've got a flow that actually looks pretty similar to what you're
Oh,
actually
yeah, of course,
thinking.
here.
So Chris, this isn't your exact use case, but you're in essence, you're getting records that your assignment's using whatever your criteria is to identify those duplicates. This is that sort order that Andy's referring to. You'd sort by that created date,
Mhm.
probably in, you'd want whatever the first record is, the most. So yeah, I don't know that ascending descending, that always
Yeah, I know.
confuses me.
I have to think about it too.
But
I'm glad
but
I'm
you're
not the only
gonna,
one.
yeah, you're gonna get into your loop. You're basically looping through that get, and you're gonna come in. You're gonna have. I'm trying to think if you'd even need a decision here. Yeah, you could do a decision in essence that says, is my variable count equal to 0, meaning it's the first record that comes through.
Yeah.
And if it's not, it would go down a separate path. I don't think you need 3 paths like mine has here. But the
Right.
assignment that is occurring is you're taking that variable count, in this case filled count, and you're just adding 1 to it.
Gotcha.
So then the next time you come through that loop, that if that count isn't 0, you're in essence just, you're going to throw that record into a collection that at the end of the loop, you're just going to delete that items from the collection. So it'll look kind of similar to this.
And then I could have another schedule. So then conceivably at that point in time, let's say I have this as a scheduled, to me, I see this as a scheduled flow because
if you do it as a schedule, you're going to have to account for having multiple in this get, you're going to have multiple records to work through. I mean, you're going to, if doing it through that async method that we were talking about, you'd be dealing with a single record set of duplicates, if that makes sense. It's one duplicate for that the opportunity volunteer record. So it'll come back with 2 records. If you do it as a scheduled, you may end up with 50 records that you're going to then have to make sure you're resetting that variable every time you're hitting a new schedule opportunity. Right. But you could do it that way too. You just have to manage it slightly differently inside of your flow.
So essentially the async, and again, I haven't really dug into async at all, but let me reiterate it to you. The async is kind of always happening. So the idea is, because we don't have a massive volume happening here, that it's cleaning up the dupes one by one very quickly, is through the async method.
Yeah, probably within a minute. A lot of times it's almost as fast as you can refresh your screen, it's done.
And that would work. Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
So I can Google async flow. I think is it one of the choices now with the start?
Yeah, it'll be in your start.
Great. That's what I thought.
This is a screen flow, so it's not available in this one, but underneath where you choose your fast field update or actions and related, there's a checkbox right underneath that will allow you to go to async.
And this would be an after save, wouldn't it? Async after save.
Yep.
And another question for you where I get a little mixed up sometimes is, you know how you have the start and you put in your entry criteria there. Where I sometimes get confused is then you do a get and I'm like, well, pretty much what I put in for the entry criteria is the get. And I sometimes I get tripped up on that and I figure it out and then in other words, you don't want this firing off all the time. So you want to limit the start, but then you don't have any, it has whatever records it gets here. How do you pass it along? That's where I get mixed up where, let's say it gets, I got that part. Great.
So there's your run async. And you still will have access to your dollar record inside here.
Okay.
So down this path, you're still going to have that dollar record that you're going to be able to reference the information from. So whatever uniqueness that there is about that record that was just saved, you can query off of that to find those duplicates. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it's making, it's essentially that concatenate field that I have on the assignment. I know in assignment record back in Salesforce that we call assignment records. I can have it go off that.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's just going to be, I'm just going to grab something here.
I mean, you're gonna do this on create anyway, right? Just create.
Yeah.
You don't need to do it on update.
True. Yeah. So you're just going to point to that concatenated field,
Right.
whatever that happens to be, and then where it equals your dollar record value.
Okay.
For the same.
I'm so glad you're
same
taping
option.
it so I can go back and look at this. Yeah, I see it. Got it.
No, I'm not seeing dollar record there. Oh, there it is.
Oh,
Sorry.
there it is.
Yeah, sorry, it was. So yeah, it's just going to be that simple. So in this case, if I'm doing it on language, it would be where dollar record equals the language of the other records. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. Man, I think y'all have given me enough information to really
At least
work
kind of
with.
start modeling it out.
Yes.
And if you
Okay.
get stuck, just reach out.
Yes.
Hopefully
Terrific.
that helps.
That helped tremendously
Good.
in about 3 or 4 different ways. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Heather, do you have any questions we can help you with? Or Mark, I think I've reached out to both of you in the chat window, but Mark, it sounds like you were.
No,
Yeah,
I'm good for what you guys talked about. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a question, and I was hoping
Okay.
you guys could.
Yep. Go ahead, Heather.
So they were talking about how they're going to have in Flow the filtration to the record type, right?
Yeah.
So it'll only have the fields that your record type allows, or something like that. It's coming up, and
That's
people were
pick
very
list.
excited.
For your pick
Okay.
list.
Pick list
Pick list for
values.
the record type. I have a screen flow that I have for my users, and I have them selecting their record type, and then it kind of fills in. Do they need to select their record type, or when they create, because they're only their default one, you only have that one default. If you create this custom object, will it go to your default record type, or do they have to select one? Because I was like, how do the pick lists, how can you filter those pick lists to the record type if you don't know their record type? Does that make sense? Do your users have to somehow be assigned their record type at the beginning of your flow so that works?
I am seeing what I can find on that.
All right, so that functionality works this way. It's actually referring to the fields or dynamic forms for flow functionality, right? And that functionality works when you are working with a record variable. You need to point it to a record variable.
Okay.
And when you point it to a record variable, from the left panel to the right screen panel, you can start dragging all these different fields. It still doesn't support currency and whatever, a couple of field types, but it supports pick list. So if you create a screen using that, and at that point, you're running that screen, in your record variable, the record type ID field is set. The users will see the pick list, the valid pick list values for that record type. So you got to set it for those pick list values to show appropriately accordingly.
In the chat is the link to that release notes.
And,
So,
and
but
how,
your question is this, I think. My user needs to select a record type, you're saying, right? And
if they were to go in through the quick link version, it doesn't give them a choice because they only have one that they can it's their default that they open up and that's what they get. But I have multiple users being able to create this because my executive manager, he wanted like a pop-up. So my pop-up is a screen flow. If you're at the stage, you don't have this thing in, you get your screen flow. But because I can have maintenance, finance, or just regular sales go to this pop-up, I have them selecting their record type.
Okay.
Do they need to select it? Or would
Right.
if I left that out, would it create, if you could only have sales, would it only create a sales one?
Well, most probably it will create the default record type. I haven't tried. You could try, and then it should work. But none of that previous dialogue with the pick lists will actually follow the record type selection, because until the create step, nothing will happen anyway.
Okay.
So
So if you want that to work, you're gonna have to select it, set it. I'm not exactly sure whether you can actually grab the record type that the user has as default, because it's set somewhere, but I don't know whether Flow has access to that.
I think it sparked my curiosity of whether or not I need my users to select their record type.
the way that I'm reading it, you would have to select that because that's a variable that you would then use in the pick list
Okay.
elements, what it sounds like.
Yeah,
Okay. So when
the
they would do
record
it through
type-
like the old fashioned quick link, create new, then it probably just grabs their record type and brings it in where my screen flow doesn't really.
I was trying to see if
have
they had access to actually show a version of that, but
But I see what you're saying, Andy, that you have to create it so it can say, hey, this thing has this record type, and then pick lists from there on would be filtered to what they need to be. I was just trying to take that step off if it wasn't required. Because right now, if you could only do sales and you chose financial services and you go to next, you get an error that is not available to you. So you go previous, hit your sales, and then go forward, no problem.
I mean, the ideal solution would be, you know who the user is in your flow. You have access to the user.
Yes.
You probably have access to the profile as well.
Yes.
If you could query and find out what the record type, default record type is for that profile, that would be immensely helpful. Then you could set it, but I don't know whether that's available to you. I've never researched that.
Oh, darn, I really thought you were. I was going to add into my create field the query of their record type. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's just kind of, that's where I was wondering is if I need to have that selection box or not. I mean, it's 3 lines. It's not the end of the world. It's just anything I can reduce as a possible error for my users.
You can reduce it this way. It would be manual. I don't know if it's possible for you. Like you could use something on their user to set that record type. If you don't have that default record type available to you, something on the user or the profile. If you have, for example, all the sales profiles, including the word sales, then you'll know that they need to use that record type. You can kind of hard code it, like look for it. But I don't know whether that's a great solution.
No, because I'm trying to clean up profiles, and the last thing I'd want to do is work my way out of something like that. Okay. Okay. That helps me. Thank you. I wasn't quite understanding how that was all working, and I just kind of like, if I'm doing an extra step and I don't need to, I would remove it. But from the sounds of it, unless I do a query behind the scenes and somehow get that, we're kind of
my org that I have that's an early release. I don't see that it's got that as an option on that element. So I don't know if I can, I was hoping maybe my early release, I'd be able to show it to you. But I don't see it.
Okay. That works. Thank you very much.
Very good. Any other questions? If not, Chris, let us know if you get stuck. Reach out and just yell. Be curious how that goes.
Yeah, me too.
And otherwise, we will see everybody next month, same time and place.
Quick question, Terry. How soon will this be posted? You know,
The
tomorrow?
live stream is posted immediately. It's recording and it's available now.
Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely. All right, everybody. Andy, thanks as always. You're fantastic.
All right.
We'll see you
Same to
all
you.
next
Thank you
time
very
around.
much.
All right,
Bye.
take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.